Take 2 aspirin and call me in the morning. Surely we can do better than that. Even though a billion people worldwide are affected by migraines, the cause is not completely understood. However, there are identifiable triggers. In today's episode, we're going to look at practical ways to identify and avoid triggers to prevent migraines. Migraine headaches are the third most common disease in the world, and women are 3 times as likely as men to be affected. I am one of them, and I can tell you they are debilitating. I started having migraines in my early 20s, and they got worse in my early 30s. And then I discovered something that made a huge difference. If you have migraines, stay tuned to learn more. I'm Dr. Vickie, and this is Healthy Looks Great on You, a lifestyle medicine podcast to help you reclaim your energy, your focus, and your well-being. Life-tested, doctor-approved. According to the World Health Organization, 40% of adults experience headache. But let's go to mini medical school and learn what sets migraines apart. Migraines are characterized by intense, throbbing pain. I always said it felt like an ice pick stabbing me in the temple. Brutal? Yeah, I know. It can be accompanied by extreme sensitivity to light, which is called photophobia, or sound, which is called phonophobia. Some people get dizziness and nausea and even vomiting. There are 4 phases of migraine. Number 1 is the prodrome. This is kind of like that red blinking light at the railroad crossing. You can't see or hear a train yet, but there are some signs it's coming down the tracks. The second phase is aura. But not everyone gets this, but those who do may see flashes or wavy lines, or sometimes even have blind spots in their vision. They may feel numbness or tingling in their face or have trouble speaking, which sounds about as terrifying as being stuck on the railroad tracks with that black and white arm lowering, and you know the train is coming. The third phase is the actual headache, and these are very painful. They usually last between 4 and 72 hours. How long you sit and wait for a train to go by at a railroad crossing depends on how many cars there are. How long a migraine lasts can vary too. The fourth phase is a hangover. Just takes a lot out of you, and you feel exhausted like maybe you were the one that pushed the engine down the tracks, uphill, both ways. There are lots of possible causes like neuroinflammation, hormones, especially female hormones like estrogen, but also things like serotonin. Vasodilation or sudden opening of the blood vessels in the head has long been thought to play a role in the pounding sensation. Now, some triggers can be controlled, others can't. But one important step that you can take is to become your own detective. Keep a journal and see if you can identify any triggers that you can eliminate or at least reduce. Even hormonal fluctuations can be flattened with things like continuous hormonal contraceptives, which paradoxically can make migraines worse in some women. And that's why you need to consult with someone who went to real medical school when it comes to medications and headaches. The same is true if your hormones are changing because of perimenopause. Some women get better, some get worse. Sometimes new migraines appear for the first time. Oh joy, that's one more thing to add to the list that perimenopause brings. Let's first look at the common triggers because stopping migraines before they start is your most powerful tool. Then we'll talk about what to do if you get a migraine. Migraines and stress go hand in hand. I know. This is about as avoidable as hormonal fluctuations. Stress can't be avoided, but with intentional work and sometimes help, you can learn to manage stress so that it doesn't manage you. Insufficient or disrupted sleep can cause migraines, and this can be really challenging for some people, especially those at highest risk. Because when you're in your 30s, you very well may have a little human in your house who needs a drink of water or makes up some other excuse to wake you up at night. Next is alcohol. Sulfites, tannins, histamines, and tyramine all can trigger a migraine. Plus, alcohol suppresses antidiuretic hormone, and that can cause dehydration. Coffee is another paradoxical substance because it can be very effective at relieving migraine, but then it can cause a rebound headache because of withdrawal. Also, if you're drinking a flavored latte, then you're also getting about 35 grams of sugar, so you might want to rethink that. Weather changes are certainly beyond our control, and people with migraines can often sense changes in the barometric pressure. Medications to treat headache can really throw you for a loop. This happened to me. I'd get a bad headache, and I'd take Excedrin migraine with caffeine, and voila, no headache. Then, it would come back with a vengeance. It's a vicious cycle. I also used BC powder. I have a theory about how that works. It tastes so bad, it makes you forget you have a headache. But then it comes back to remind you. Next is an intense workout. That can trigger a migraine too. And if you've worked out hard and you're sweaty and stinky, think twice before dousing yourself with strong cologne or perfume, because smells can trigger migraines, including secondhand smoke and chemical irritants like gasoline, as well as really anything that strongly activates the senses, like bright flashing lights or loud sounds. Once I went to church with a migraine and the handbell choir played. It amazes me that they can hit just the right note in sync with the person all the way at the other end of the table. But this particular Sunday morning, those high notes felt like I had a hammer to my head. That's phonophobia. Now let's talk about Mayo. Oh, not Mayo Clinic, mayonnaise. Mayo and some of its friends can cause migraines because they often contain preservatives and sometimes monosodium glutamate. Now, here's what I figured out that I hope helps you. I had food triggers, big time. And yes, hormones and sleep deprivation from delivering babies during the night, or a long trip on my road bicycle, or a variety of other things contributed to my headaches. But my main trigger was food. And once I eliminated the triggers, my headaches got better. Now, what triggered my migraines might not trigger yours, and that's why I recommend keeping a journal. But I wouldn't be surprised if my number one and your number one are the same. If you get a migraine, try to recall what you saw, smelled, heard, and tasted. Write it down and see if you can identify a pattern. My biggest culprit was sugar. And once I figured that out, I was able to drastically cut my sugar intake because a piece of cake looked like a headache on a plate to me. And yeah, sometimes I'd forget how bad the pain was and start cheating. But once I paid the price, I wouldn't be tempted again for a long time. But sugar isn't the only culprit. Chocolate and cheese, especially aged cheeses, which contain tyramine, also common food additives like aspartame and some evidence, maybe even sucralose. And those are often found in low-calorie drinks. And MSG is frequently found in processed foods and takeout. And MSG is notorious for triggering migraines. And you might be surprised to find this stuff on the ingredient list. So it's always important to look at ingredients on the back label. Ignore the front label. That is advertising. Also, processed meats like salami and hot dogs have a lot of nitrites, and that can dilate the blood vessels and trigger migraine. Foods that are high in histamines, like fermented foods, can also trigger the headaches. Look for clues and try to eliminate some of these things from your diet and see if it makes a difference. I promise, it's worth the effort. Now, if you do get a migraine, you know, first of all, I'm not giving medical advice, but I want to mention that if you have other symptoms like fever or confusion, seizures or weakness, you should seek medical attention immediately. And also, if you have sudden severe pain like you've never had before, that can be a serious warning sign, so don't ignore it. The remedies I'm recommending are not for the worst headache ever. They're for your typical run-of-the-mill migraine. You know, the ice pick in your temple. Also, if you're having more than 4 migraines a month, it's worth having a conversation with your physician about prescription medications for either treatment or prevention. And if you do take prescription medication for migraines, take it as soon as you feel the migraine coming on. Don't wait until it's debilitating. And yes, I know the side effects can sometimes be worse than the headache, but work with your doctor to tweak your treatment. Here's what I recommend. Keep a regular schedule. Don't skip meals. Try to go to bed and get up at the same time every day, even on the weekends. Drink your coffee in the morning in moderation and consistent amounts. About 10 years ago, there was a small study that looked at hydrotherapy that showed if you put your feet in hot water, which dilates blood vessels, while putting a cold cloth on your head, which constricts blood vessels, that it could be helpful. It can't hurt. Some people do find that taking a hot bath or shower helps, or putting a hot pack on their neck or shoulders with a cold pack on their head. And thermotherapy is worth a try. Try just turning down the thermostat because, again, cold causes those dilated blood vessels to clamp down, so it might help. In fact, keep an eye mask in the freezer so that you can lay down, put it over your face. Because lying down in a quiet, cold, dark place may help. And if you're sleep deficient, try to make a deposit in your sleep bank. If you struggle with racing thoughts that keep you from sleeping, then you'll want to check out a free resource I have on my website with a method that truly works to stop those spinning thoughts. Just go to healthylooksgreatonyou.com, sleep solutions, and if you're stressed, breathe. I know, a breath doesn't sound like much of a weapon against an ice pick, but breathing techniques activate your parasympathetic nervous system and can have significant calming effects. The last thing you want is for adrenaline to be flowing through your bloodstream, making that blood pound all the harder in your temple. Try putting one hand over your heart and your tongue against your teeth. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 7 seconds, and breathe out for 8 seconds. The 4-7-8 breathing method is worth trying now. Another deep breathing technique is box breathing. Breathe in for 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds, breathe out for 5 seconds, hold for 5 seconds, and repeat. Another thing that has a calming effect is to lie on the floor with your rear end against the wall and your legs straight up in the air. Hey, it might work. Now, you're not going to want to go for a run out in the hot sun and pound the pavement, but slow, intentional, gentle movement and stretching can help calm the mind and relax the body, things like yoga or Tai Chi. Now, if you see someone rubbing their temple, that's a dead giveaway that they have a headache. It's a natural response, and sometimes rubbing your temple helps, and there are other pressure points that you can try massaging. There are even over-the-counter ointments like Tiger Balm that have camphor and menthol, and that may help your pain. If you want to try aromatherapy, use lavender or peppermint oil, and ginger tea can help with nausea. Make sure you drink plenty of water. You can't control the barometric pressure, but you can keep your own tank full. And it also helps if you have an alcoholic drink because alcohol causes the kidneys to excrete more water, so you urinate more and get dehydrated. Drinking plenty of fluids after an intense workout also prevents dehydration. And while there are some foods that you should avoid, there are some foods that actually help. So let's take a peek at food as medicine. Foods rich in magnesium can help. Dark, leafy greens like Swiss chard, kale, arugula. Potatoes with the skin on, artichokes and collard greens. My husband loves collard greens, and I'm just not good at cooking them. It takes forever to get them right. But someone shared a little secret with me that I'm going to share with you. Old Glory canned collard greens. They're actually really good, but don't tell him. I'm cheating. Now, what I don't have trouble cooking is spinach. And that's a good thing. We had a little mishap in our family a few weeks ago, and my bonus daughter flew across the country to help us. She offered to get groceries and asked for a list. And in my mind, I could just see that plastic box of spinach that they sell at the grocery store. And I remembered it had a 5 on it. I thought it was 5 pounds. So I told her to get 5 pounds of spinach. But they're 1-pound containers that cost $5. I knew there was a 5 on there. So I had a lot of spinach. I put it in omelets, smoothies, I made salads, I sauteed it, I added it to pasta and everything I could think of, and I still had some left over. So I froze it. Let me know if you have some creative ways to cook extra spinach. There is evidence that not only foods rich in magnesium can help, but supplements. 400 to 600 milligrams of magnesium glycinate, oxide, or citrate may help prevent migraines or reduce intensity. And it seems to be most helpful for menstrual migraines. But you should always discuss your medical history with your doctor or pharmacist because people with weird diseases like me are not supposed to take magnesium. If you suffer from migraines, a pen and a notebook might be your best weapon to find the culprit. Journal about your stress. Getting it out of your head and onto paper can immediately lower your stress level. And use a good old-fashioned ink pen and paper. It does something to the brain that a keyboard and a screen just can't do. Make a little note about the weather, maybe where you are in your cycle, and how well you slept the night before. And track your food to see if you can find the instigators. Food can be your friend, or it can ruin your day. So read labels, look for hidden sugar, MSG, or anything that triggers your migraines. And try eliminating those common culprits and adding some of the foods that help. And if you need spinach, I've got extra. Spinach is a healthy food, and healthy looks great on you.
The information contained in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not considered to be a substitute for medical advice. You should continue to follow up with your physician or healthcare provider and take medication as prescribed. Though the information in this podcast is evidence-based, new research may develop and recommendations may change.